The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Zan Dubin-Scott, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on media relations for your National Drive Electric Week event. We're going to get started here. To start off, please do send us your questions as we go. You should be looking at a screenshot of how to do that. It's pretty simple, and I think at least for my portion of the webinar, I'm going to be going fairly quickly over it because I think the meat of what we'll do will be in the question and answer. So our agenda today will be a welcome. We'll talk about media coverage before the event, your event, following up after sending out your media alerts, writing alerts to catch reporters' attention, getting media reporters to attend your event, engaging social media, and then recruitment and public outreach, which sort of extends beyond media to everybody from friends to elected officials, and then finally Q&A. And our presenters today are myself, Zan Dubin-Scott. I'm Communications Director for Plug-in America. Gina Copeland-Newfield, who is the Sierra Club's Director of Future Fleet and Electric Vehicles Initiative. And Brian Dockstader, who is the National Online Organizer for Sierra Club's Beyond Oil campaign. So just to go over our deadline here, one important deadline, and that would be for the last day for you to enter event details, date, time, and location is August 15th, and we're only 4 days away from that. So please keep that in mind. So we will now go to our first topic, how to get media coverage before your event. And again, because we have such a range of expertise, I'm assuming on this call I'll go through fairly quickly. And also because a lot of this is covered on our resources page, which I'm sure everyone knows is on the National Drive Electric Week website. There's a tab at the top. And so, but of course, it does get harder and harder, we're experiencing, to get reporters to cover this event since it's our 4th year and electric vehicles aren't as new as they once were. But a couple of hints that might help is to putting the event itself aside for a moment, to try to book something really unusual for your event. There actually is something called a Bigfoot electric vehicle crusher, and it's an electric car, and this didn't actually come through, but I was working with an organizer to try to get one of these things at an electric car event, and we thought we would crush gasoline-powered cars. That, no doubt, would be very delicious to a reporter. But another good idea might be to invite reporters who have never driven an EV to do so at your event, or even before the event. And perhaps they've driven the more common EVs like a Leaf or a Volt. Maybe you have a Tesla Model S for them to drive. Certainly in your press communications, emphasize that your event is free because media really likes to notify the public of free events. You can emphasize for the whole family. Again, the wider audience that your event appeals to will be, more attractive to media because that is their job, to appeal to as many people as possible. And of course, inviting elected officials and other prominent citizens to speak, whether it's at a press conference or to your crowd, that's going to attract media attention as well. Okay, I think I might just add a few more tips here. Just, of course, that on our resources page we have templates for the media alert, and which should be sent 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time. And along with all of this, of course, ask your attendees and volunteers to register for your event so that it really looks well attended. Media will want to see that. You know, another idea that is on our website is to think about an op-ed that you could write, or you could co-write with a VIP perhaps who's speaking at your event or who's been involved with electric vehicles in your city. Another tip is if you do a calendar listing only is to send some nice high-resolution photographs with showing a very crowded event from last year perhaps. Or on to following up after your media alert. Wait 2 days before your first contact. Feel free to then send another email is probably the best way, and if no one responds to that, certainly pick up the phone. Also, if you're not getting a response even after that, is there someone else at the paper who might be interested in covering? Like, for instance, if you've targeted initially an environmental reporter, maybe this would be an interesting story for a business reporter who wants to talk about electric vehicle sales. So be creative, and also don't worry about emailing any one of us. We'll have our emails at the end of the call if things are just not working. Although I will add that we've had tremendous success, and by we I mean all the events on the ground. You guys have all done really well in obtaining media. So that in brief concludes my initial presentation, and I will hand it to Gina to talk about our next slide.
Okay, terrific. Hi, everybody. So I'll talk a little bit about writing, sorry, there's an ambulance right outside my window, about how to catch the attention of reporters and really get them to pay attention to your release and to get them to attend your event. But before I go into a few tips on that, I want to make sure that everybody knows that we are in the process of compiling media contacts for all of the city captains, and we've done this in years past and are doing it again this year. And so I wanted to let everyone know that our interns, our Sierra Club interns, Melissa Goldberg and Emma, gosh, I don't have Emma's last name in front of me, but Emma and Melissa are furiously putting together media contacts for everybody. And so you should look out for an email from one of them, either Emma or Melissa, in the coming days that should have some specific reporters in your area who have been covering EVs or related issues, who we think you might have a pretty good shot of getting to cover your event or attend event. But as Zan said, if you're not getting a response from those folks, definitely reach out to others. It's possible that they've moved on, they're no longer at that media outlet, or they're busy covering something else, or they're on vacation. So definitely reach out to others at that news outlet as well. So the first tip is to write an eye-catching title. So, and when I say title, I actually mean both for the news release itself or news advisory, and also for the email itself. I think that in this day and age, people get so many emails that it's important to put some thought into how you're going to title the email. So I actually often will title an email to someone I've never met before to put their name in the subject heading. So for example, if the person's name is John, I might say, for John, EV news release, or EV or community event, or something that lets them know that this is specifically for them. This isn't just some group email that they can delete or ignore. And then when it comes to the title of your actual release, you might want to think about what's going to be the most exciting thing about it. So think about it from the perspective of a reporter, or even someone who would be reading the article. What would most catch their attention? You know, will your governor or city councilor be attending? Or is something new getting announced? Or is it simply that, you know, your city is having this event, and because maybe you live in a smaller community where something like this you know, might be interesting and newsworthy because maybe this hasn't happened in your community before. And so relatedly, think about having some sort of hook. At the national level, I think the hook that we're probably going to have for our national news release is the fact that right around the time of National Drive Electric Week, we expect that to be the time when about 250,000 EVs are going to be on U.S. roads. And that's pretty exciting. You know, we started with a very small number just a few years ago, and we're now up at about 250,000. We think we'll hit that mark right around National Drive Electric Week. So, you know, you could also use that hook in your release. We'll be sending out a template news release in the next few weeks, and so you might choose to use the same one we're using at the national level, or you might choose to use one that's more local or more specific to your event. And I think you'll just have to figure out what you think is going to most capture the attention of your media and of your public in your area. The next thing to do to highlight in the news release the fact that you're going to have visuals. So this is something to clue them into the fact that this is going to be really good for them to send their cameras. This will be good for TV. If it's a web publication or a print publication, they should be sending their photographers so they can take pictures at this event. So let them know that there will be visuals. You know, you can say something like photo op or photo opportunity, and then let them know what that photo opportunity might be. Maybe it's cars on display, or some sort of award to be given, or a public leader. You know, maybe it's a business leader or a policymaker who's going to be there to speak or to take a test drive. So let the media know about these visuals. And probably the best time to do that is in a news advisory. Usually what we do is we send out a news advisory in advance of the event. So maybe, you know, a month ahead of time, a week ahead of time, to let them know kind of the who, what, where, when, why. And I believe we have an example of a news advisory on our website in the resources and news and media section. And then, you know, maybe the day before the event, to send out an actual news release. And there is a difference between a news advisory and a news release. If you're unfamiliar with that difference, again, we encourage you to check out the templates that are on our Drive Electric Week website. And we'll be sending out templates as well, or you know, we'll be making sure we have templates up on the website, and we'll probably also send out those templates through the listserv as well to folks. Another tip is to include some good quotes. So I think a good overall way to think about a news release or a press release is to basically write it the way you would want it to appear in the newspaper or in you know, in some sort of media outlet. So really write it like you would want it to be written, and include quotes like you would like them to be seen. So you might want to have the executive director of your organization, or maybe a public figure, you know, maybe your city councilor is going to be speaking at the event. Reach out to their aide, you know, now or in the next week or two, and say, hey, we'd love to have a quote from, you know, the city council member on our press release. How's something like this? And share with them an idea you have for. It's going to get a better response if you actually write a draft quote. They're welcome to write back and say, no, why don't you tweak it this way, and you know, this is a quote we like better. But more often than not, these are busy people. They're more than happy to have you spend the time to write the quote for them. Of course, you need to get their permission, but if you can write the quote for them and run it by them, you're probably going to be in good shape. And then lastly, keep it short and sweet. Most press releases are one page, maybe a page and a half. Same for media advisory. You definitely don't want to have it long, because then they're just going to ignore it. So keep it short and sweet. So I think that's it for my tips. Let me turn it over to Brian.
All right, great. So social media, you know, it's a great way to you know, get people at your event and really highlight it to the media. So you know, first and foremost, it's important that everything you put on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, has the National Drive Electric Week hashtag on it, so it can be connected to all the other great content that all the other city captains are putting out there. And so that people who are following the hashtag locally or nationally can see your content. So that hashtag is NDEW 2014. So make sure to include that. You You can use Facebook, both your own, your personal account to reach out to your friends, your own connections to let them know about the event you're hosting. People you know are probably the most likely, the easiest group to get out to your event because they already literally like you on Facebook. If you have a Facebook group or a page, you can also you should also start promoting your event through that. If there are other Facebook, local Facebook groups or pages, like for example, a local EV owners group or perhaps an environmental group, you can also comment or post things to that page to let them know that this event's going on if it lines up with their interests. On Twitter, Twitter is really great for getting the hashtag out there and boosting the profile of not only your event but all of the events with other people on the network and and also the press and media. So in addition to what Gina was saying, one great tip for reaching out to local reporters is to follow them on Twitter and tweet at them or tag them in tweets about your event, especially if their beat, the issue they cover, is related to transportation and environment. It's great to let them know about it that way. So they're not just getting the contacts through email or phone. It's also on social media. And a lot of reporters really follow and respond to social media really well because it's so public. You can also use Instagram, which is great for showing off the success of your event after the fact, but it's also good, if your event is going on for a whole day or a whole afternoon or something, if you can start posting photos on there early, and then you can also, very easily from that post them to your Facebook pages and Twitter. It's a good way to kind of show people as the event is going that this is happening, this is, check out this scene from the event, there's a bunch of people, there's a bunch of cars, so, calm down, we're here till, 5 p.m. or whatever. So, it doesn't even have to wait until after the event is over to start promoting that. You can also use email. Email is also a social network, although it's more one-on-one than Facebook or Twitter. But each of us has our own personal email contacts. So reach out to them through email and invite them to the events because maybe they're not going to see it on Facebook. If you work for an organization that's sponsoring this, definitely use your supporter list to promote this your event because email is the best online tool for event recruitment. Social media is great, but people still, even in 2014, respond to email. They read emails, and if you can put a good, direct ask together, and they're not distracted by 100 other items in a feed, then it's a really good tool to use to get people to come to an event. So finally, what to do now? Key right now is to make sure that all of your content is on the National Drive Electric Week website. As Zan said at the beginning, August 15th is the deadline to enter your event details. So 4 days away, so definitely do that. And then start sharing sharing your event on all your social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email, for both your personal accounts and any organization accounts you manage. And then, like I said, especially on social media, but not limited to that, reach out to other recruitable online communities like local green or EV interest groups. If you see any local green or EV-related hashtags that are already out there, consider using that one as well, in addition to the National Drive Electric Week hashtag, which again is NDEW 2014. And really, use all the tools you have available to get people to turn out to the event and also raise a profile for media. And that's it. If there's any questions.
Okay, in fact, we are now going to go to our question and answer period, and I would just add a couple of things. Don't forget about our Chris Payne video. It's a little late to use this anymore because the video really encourages people to sign up as city captains. However, Chris also talks generally about, getting involved. Plus, it's kind of fun and it's there. So, and of course, you'll find a link to that if you don't already have it on our resources page. Another thing is pretty soon here, probably this week, we're going to be starting an EV quiz on Facebook. It's, one of those what kind of salad dressing are you things. And that'll be on Plug-in America's general Facebook page and the National Drive Electric Week page. So hopefully that'll be fun. I think particularly to people who don't already drive EVs, which, as we've said before, is our main target. So let's see. We are now going to take questions, and I might ask for a little bit of assistance from our technological.
Yes, Zan, I'll read you the questions, and then,
Okay.
So if anyone has questions, go ahead and type them into the question box, and Zan will either answer the question or give it to one of the other presenters to answer. So the first one is actually a comment. The first comment was meeting with newspaper reporters in person to explain the event seems to work better than email or phone calls. That got the Huntsville Times to come out and cover our event. That's from Josh Pritt. So I don't know if you want to say anything else about that.
Right on.
Okay.
In a big city like LA, it's a very hard thing to do to get them to leave their office or take coffee with you. But yeah, that's great. Definitely try for that. Thank you, Huntsville.
Okay, and the next question you have is, what is the best time to have city members come to the event? At the start or in the middle of the event?
That's a great question. I would say, generally speaking, if you're going to be inviting media for press conferences and that kind of a thing, it would be early, like 10 a.m. But what you might do, there's absolutely no harm in emailing a reporter and saying, hey, if what would be the best time for you? Because some have earlier deadlines, some have later deadlines. Television, broadcast, TV, and TV mostly, they usually like earlier in the morning. And then the challenge is getting that elected official to fit into your schedule. But if you tell them that this is the best time for media, that might help.
Okay, great. There's a question for some clarification around the August 15th deadline, whether they can still update information on the website after that.
I think absolutely. You can...
Yeah. Tom is unmuted, so I think Tom's ready to answer
very
that.
Good. Okay, Tom. Tom Saxton is one of our Plug-in America board members. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, so we'll take event info updates, but sometime around the 15th, all the events that haven't set both their date and their site info, those gray dots on the map will disappear. So if you want your dot to stay on the map, make sure you set your date and fill in that location info for your event.
And this is Gina. I'll just add to that. Part of the reason for that is because we at the national level, at Sierra Club or Plug-in America or Electric Auto Association, we're going to be promoting all of these events around the country. So, for example, when we send out an email to folks, wherever they are, whether they're in Huntsville or LA, we want to be sending them to events that we're confident are happening or, well organized or really, are going to be a pretty good event. We don't want to send folks to events that, end up not happening or, only a couple people show up because a lot of the details haven't been cemented. So that's why we've set up this deadline, because we just really want to make sure that we are sending people to well-organized events. If you have a special situation and, you think you're going to have a terrific event, but you need a tiny bit more time to cement a few of your details, I think it would be great to reach out to Dan or Aaron or Melissa and let them know. But I just want to explain a little bit more about why we have that deadline, so that when we're pushing out these events to our millions of people around the country, that we're confident that the events are really happening.
Thank you. The next question is, how do we get people from Sierra Club and Plug-in America to like our specific city Facebook pages? And this is like their specific National Drive Electric Week for their city Facebook page.
Right. Well, we'll like you if you like us back. I'm just kidding. But let's see. How would they reach out to us? Maybe Tom can help me with that, or Brian, maybe you have an idea on that.
I'm not actually sure. We don't do a whole lot of, national Facebook page liking really anybody. I don't directly control the social media for Sierra Club, so that's actually something I can't really promise that we're going to like anything, because we may have certain rules about that. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't worry a whole lot about it, because that's not really going to do much for getting more likes or getting people to notice your events. When it comes to what Plug-in America and Sierra Club are going to do to promote the events, by far the email and direct social media invites for it is going to drive a lot more sign-ups than liking a Facebook page.
And I think too, the objective of getting eyeballs to your Facebook page and likes on your Facebook page is to make people aware of the events so that they go. So what would be most advantageous would be likes from people in your community who could show up to the event. So it may take a little bit more research and effort, but maybe if you go to say for instance there's a chapter of the American Lung Association in your town. Now there's a good target audience for you. Or for let's see, I don't know, any sort of maybe a Clean Cities chapter. Go to their Facebook page, like them, and that's the way to get their attention, and you can even direct message them, and then they become aware of you and potentially like your page. Same for Twitter, by the way, is to develop more and more Twitter followers. Follow people who you'd like to see at your event.
Great. The next question is, would telling the media we have hands-on activities like plugging in and unplugging the J1772 plug to show how easy it is, and showing several EV-related short videos from YouTube on a loop, on a big screen or a monitor nearby, in addition to ride and drives, would those be things, would that be enough to draw the attention of the media?
I think I wouldn't say any one of those would be enough, but absolutely, if you want to do a list of bullet points, and again, the media like very, concrete actions, not theories or even the philosophy of why we're putting this on, but they want to be able to go and tell people about things that they can experience and actually do. So yes, I think all of those things would be wonderful in a release.
Great. Would local microblogs be a good audience to target for spreading the word?
There's no such thing as a bad audience. Everybody counts. So yes.
Okay. This is a comment for first-time events in smaller areas like Melbourne, Florida. We've invited some green exhibitors and asked them to send info out to their followers. We wrote the info for them and just asked them to share.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
That's all the questions so far. If anyone else has questions, please type them in your question box.
And I'll mention also, if if everyone hasn't heard yet, we have wonderful swag from Nissan. So this is all kinds of great giveaways from, canvas bags to stickers that Nissan, our national sponsor, automotive sponsor, is making available either for free or very low cost. That everyone can, or not everyone, rather city captains can order this online, and there is a link to that order form, again, on our resources page.
Yeah, and this is Gina. I wanted to piggyback on something that was just said about other organizations posting this to their own lists. A lot of organizations have newsletters. So, for example, a lot of Sierra Club chapters and groups have their own newsletters. Clean Cities coalitions often have their own newsletters. American Lung Association, as Zan mentioned. So if you draft up a really short blurb, just a few sentences with the links about your site, and you basically do the work for them and ask if they could put it in their newsletter, that could be a great way to get the word out.
And I just add, generally speaking, as far as follow-up with media, definitely do it, but say you've tried one email and one phone call and nothing happens. I'm talking per person. Again, you may shift to a different reporter and try one email, one phone call follow-up. If they are not getting back to you, be careful about doing any more than that. They are human beings, but they tend to be sensitive. And so, badgering, just like anywhere else in life, doesn't work too well. But again, if you are, if you hit a wall, feel free to email one of us. I will say, though, that from the terrific results we've had over the years, it doesn't seem like there have been too many problems.
Great. We did have one more question come in. Has old-fashioned posting of flyers been effective in the past? One of our city captains was thinking about giving out info at farmers markets as well.
I don't have any personal experience lately, but I think it's terrific. And we do have a link also on the resources page to a postcard that's been developed for us by one of our sponsors, which you can have printed. I've done that, and I'm going to customize it with the event that I'm organizing here. I'm just going to go sort of the cheap route and print out some Avery labels with details of my local event. So, we don't like to use a lot of paper, but for that reason, we also put one of those codes. Aaron, what's the name of that code that we
It's
printed
called
on the card?
QR code.
Yeah, the QR code. So if someone, like up in the Bay Area, people would refuse to take a card because they didn't want to use paper. So we put a QR code on this postcard so that they can just aim their smartphone at it and upload all the information onto their smartphone. So again, those postcards are on the website, and they would have to be paid for, the printing costs, by each city, but they are there for your use. You don't have to design a new postcard.
But I think if somebody thinks that they have a captive audience that might be interested in this at a farmer's market or specific cafes or wherever it is, it definitely might help to distribute flyers or post flyers. So if this is a good audience and they'd appreciate that, then I'd say go for it.
It looks like that's it for the questions.
Okay, everyone. Well, thank all of our speakers and everyone who rang in today. You have our emails, and we thank you very much for all the effort you're putting into this, and we'll be in touch with you again soon.
Thanks, everybody.